Why would someone think they could dump a mountain of garbage on private land and walk away scot-free? The sun was barely up when I stepped onto the porch of my ranch, coffee mug steaming in the crisp Montana morning. My family's land stretched wide, a patchwork of wild grass and cottonwoods hugging the riverbank. It was sacred ground, not just to me, but to the wildlife that called it home. I'd spent years restoring it, working with the EPA to turn it into a protected zone for migratory birds. That morning, though, something was wrong. A sour stench hit me, sharp and unnatural. I followed it, my boots crunching on the frost-kissed ground, until I reached the far edge of the property. There, piled high against the fence, was a heap of trash-rusted cans, plastic bags, rotting food, and old tires, spilling over like a wound on the land. I stood there, fists clenched, heart pounding. Who would do this? My ranch was miles from town, not some back alley dump. I scanned the mess, spotting a crumpled envelope with a name scrawled in loopy handwriting, Karen Walsh. My stomach twisted. Karen, of course. The woman who'd been a thorn in my side since I moved here 3 years ago. Karen, with her pinched face and perpetual scowl, who'd screamed at me in the grocery store for stealing her parking spot. Karen, who'd called the sheriff when my dog barked too loud one night. Karen, who seemed to thrive on making everyone around her miserable. I pulled out my phone and snapped photos of the mess, the envelope clear in the frame. My land wasn't just private property, it was under EPA surveillance, wired with cameras to monitor wildlife and ensure compliance with federal regulations. Whoever dumped this trash was in for a world of trouble. I called my friend Lila, who worked for the county's environmental office, and sent her the photos. Karen Walsh, I said, my voice tight. She's done it this time. Lila sighed through the phone. That woman's a walking lawsuit. I'll check the cameras and get back to you. By noon, Lila had the footage. Karen's beat-up SUV had rolled up to my fence line at 2 a.m., headlights off. The cameras caught her heaving bags of garbage over the fence, her face twisted in that familiar sneer, like she was daring the world to catch her. I felt a surge of vindication, but also a flicker of unease. Karen was vicious, but she wasn't stupid. Why risk this? I didn't have to wait long for answers. That afternoon, Karen's SUV screeched into my driveway, kicking up dust. She stormed out, her heavy frame swaying as she marched toward me, finger jabbing the air. You think you can pin this on me, you tree-hugging hippie? She bellowed, her voice dripping with venom. That land's an eyesore, and I was doing you a favor cleaning out my garage. I crossed my arms, keeping my voice steady. Karen, there are cameras. EPA cameras. You dumped trash on a protected zone. That's a federal offense. Her face went slack for a split second, then hardened again. Lies. You're setting me up. I'll sue you for defamation. She was close now, her breath hot and sour, her eyes wild with fury. I held my ground, but my pulse raced. Karen wasn't just angry, she was unhinged. Before I could respond, another car pulled up, a sleek black sedan I didn't recognize. A man stepped out, wiry and sharp-eyed, wearing a badge that glinted in the sun. Ms. Walsh, he called, his tone clipped. Agent Torres, EPA. We need to talk. Karen froze, her bravado crumbling like dry clay. What's this about? She snapped, but her voice wavered. Torres didn't blink. Illegal dumping on federally protected land. We have you on camera. You're looking at fines, community service, and possible jail time. The color drained from Karen's face, but she wasn't done. She whirled on me, spitting words like bullets. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Living out here like some saint, while the rest of us deal with the real world. You'll regret this. I wanted to fire back, to tell her how her trash endangered the herons and egrets that nested here, how her selfishness could poison the river. But something in her eyes stopped me, a flicker of desperation, not just anger. I stayed silent as Torres led her to his car, her shouts fading into the wind. That evening, I sat with Lila at my kitchen table, the photos and footage spread out like evidence in a crime drama. She's facing at least $10,000 in fines, Lila said, sipping her tea. And that's if the judge goes easy. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Karen's outburst had left a sour taste. I'd won, hadn't I? So why did I feel like something was still unresolved? The next morning brought the twist I hadn't seen coming. My neighbor, Old Man Jenkins, hobbled over with his cane, his face creased with worry. Heard about Karen, he said, voice low. You know why she did it, don't you? I frowned. Because she's Karen? She hates me. Jenkins shook his head. It ain't just that. Her husband left her last month. Took everything savings, car, even the dog. She's been hoarding junk in that garage, trying to hold on to something. Then the bank started foreclosing on her house. She's broke, Ellie. Dumping that trash, I reckon it was her way of lashing out. My chest tightened. Karen, the woman who'd made my life hell, was falling apart. It didn't excuse what she'd done, not even close, but it shifted the lens. I'd seen her as a caricature, a monster in human form. But Jenkins' words painted a different picture. A woman drowning in her own misery, striking out at the world to feel some control. I didn't know what to do with that. Part of me wanted to gloat Karen had dug her own grave. But another part, the part that had fought to protect this land because it meant something bigger than me, couldn't shake the image of her standing alone in that courtroom, facing consequences she couldn't outrun. A week later, the hearing came. The courtroom was small, the air thick with tension. Karen sat at the defendant's table, her face puffy and blotched, her usual sneer replaced by something hollow. The judge read the charges: illegal dumping, environmental endangerment, trespassing. The evidence was ironclad: cameras, the envelope, even tire tracks matching her SUV. The fine was $15,000, plus 200 hours of community service cleaning up local waterways. Karen didn't speak, didn't fight. She just nodded, her shoulders slumped. As the gavel fell, I caught her eye. For a moment, I thought I saw something: regret, maybe, or shame. But then she looked away, and the moment was gone. Outside, the air was cold, the sky heavy with clouds. Lila met me by the steps, her expression grim. Justice served, right? She said. I shrugged. Feels more like a mess. Lila raised an eyebrow. You're too soft, Ellie. She got what she deserved. Maybe. But as I drove back to the ranch, the victory felt hollow. Karen's life was unraveling, and while her actions were indefensible, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd missed a chance to see her as more than the villain in my story. I'd been so focused on protecting my land, my principles, that I hadn't seen the human behind the sneer. Not that it changed the fact she'd broken the law, endangered the environment, and targeted me out of spite. But knowing her story, her pain, made the triumph taste like ash. Back at the ranch, I walked to the fence line. The trash was gone, hauled away by a cleanup crew. The land looked whole again, but I knew it would take time to heal fully. As I stood there, a heron lifted off from the river, its wings cutting through the dusk. I thought of Karen, cleaning riverbanks for the next 6 months, her hands in the mud, her life laid bare. I hoped, against my better judgment, that she'd find something in it, not redemption, maybe, but a spark of something better. The wind carried the heron's cry, sharp and fleeting. I turned back to the house, the weight of the day settling in my bones. Karen had lost, spectacularly, but so had the idea that justice could ever feel clean. Yindy.